We knew it was coming, and now it's here. Lockdown 2, post-election boogaloo. Hey, what's going on Facebook Live? I wanted to do a quick stream here and talk about the news. We've had a jam-packed couple of weeks since I've done a video. The election is over, and so far I've gotten 33.5% of the vote in my district, which obviously isn't enough to win. And it looks like pretty much down the line, everybody in Washington State, whether you spent $4,000 on your campaign like I did, or if you raised and spent $30,000 like a lot of other people did, they still ended up with about 33 to 36% of the vote, pretty much everybody. And I know that Lauren Culp is still contesting the election, and a lot of other people haven't conceded. I haven't officially conceded yet. I mean, I posted some updates about the percentages that we received, but there's a lot of people that are that still have their hopes up that what's going on right now in the nation today is going to expose a lot of the widespread voter fraud here in Washington State and maybe flip things around. I'm not so hopeful that that's actually going to make any difference, but at the end of the day, we are in the situation that we're in. And even before this current lockdown restriction from Jay Inslee, our dubious governor here, the tyrant, the tyrannical leader that we have, Bane Inslee, as I've been calling him, even before the latest restrictions, we have here, I posted this on November 12th, Washington State leads the nation in unemployment claims. So even before he shut down all the restaurants, even before he canceled Thanksgiving, we already led the nation. And we haven't had any further assistance coming from Congress at a national level, but that didn't stop Jay Inslee. Claims for the information sector jumped 151%, while claims for F&I jumped 223%. The increases go well beyond the expected seasonal culprits, said Jacob Vigor, an economist at the Washington State University of Washington Evans School of Public Policy and Governance. I suspect we are seeing the beginnings of a second major wave of layoffs to rival what we saw in March and April, and driven by a spike in COVID cases that looks much more worse than we saw then. BS. This is not driven by a spike in COVID cases. You know, back when it was originally 2 weeks to flatten the curve, that was all about slowing down people going into the hospital. They wanted to make sure the hospitals weren't overrun, and everybody in large part agreed with that. But as we saw after the 2 weeks, the goalposts just kept getting moved. The end game just kept getting changed. And it ended up where we didn't end up being locked down for 2 weeks. We got locked down for months. And we've been in this crazy phased reopening all summer, and now going into the fall and the winter seasons. Of course, sicknesses have increased, but in large part, deaths and hospitalizations have not increased. And you can see on the charts that people that are available online, the hospitalizations have gone down, the deaths are non-existent. Cases are going up because they're testing like crazy. And we all know what happens in the winter seasons is that the flu cases go up. But none of that is stopping Jay Inslee from using this as an opportunity to further put his thumb on the middle class here in Washington State. One of the things, in addition to this, already leading the nation in unemployment claims, we saw this letter leak. Jay Inslee put out a tweet saying, "Hey, that we're gonna." Here he says, "In the next few days, we will be announcing some further changes to prevent this from spreading. These decisions will affect what we do outside and at home. Every idea is on the table right now, except for the idea of failing to contain the virus, as if the government has the ability to contain a virus that spreads in the air. Absolutely absurd. This is one of the stupidest tweets I've ever seen from this guy. And none of the facts, none of the actual science matters to Jay Inslee. Even after that tweet, before he could make his announcement on the Sunday following that, This letter leaked out from the Washington Food Workers Association. This morning, President Tammy met with Governor Inslee's office regarding new restrictions for Washington State. Governor Inslee will be making an announcement tomorrow morning. That was back over a week ago. That will be with new restrictions to social gathering and occupancy as we go into the holiday season. All indoor social gatherings will be prohibited. We are unsure how this will be enforced at this time. Well, we can see that now, and I'll get into that in just a minute. There will be a limit to 25% capacity for all retail, including grocery and convenience retailers. The capacity limit will not include employees. And the one thing that's stupid about that is to think that, the capacity of any of these restaurants, anytime you go to a restaurant, even if it's jam-packed, it is far less people than 25% occupancy of a Home Depot or a Walmart or a grocery store or any of these stores that are still open, like Michael's Crafts, that kind of stuff. 25% capacity for these mega retailers is way more people than anybody that could be in any of these restaurants. And so to unfairly blame the spread of this virus, whether you agree with the virus or not, to unfairly blame the spread of this virus on just the restaurants, just the bars where people go and socially gather, is ridiculous. The 25% capacity in Walmart is way more people than could fit in most restaurants here in Washington State. Here we have the actual restrictions. Movie theaters are closed, museums are closed, gyms are closed, unless you want to work on outside, obviously. Bowling centers closed, miscellaneous venues. All retail activities and business meetings are prohibited. Only professional training and testing that cannot be performed remotely is allowed. 25% capacity or 100 people. So, obviously, more than 100 people can go into any of these big box stores, but we'll get into that in a second. Religious services limited to 25%. Indoor occupancy, no more than 200 people. Baloney. Whichever is fewer. Professional services, okay, you get the point. Where are we here? You can see, obviously, Jay Inslee is part of this elite group of government people that don't follow their own restrictions. People like Gavin Newsom, who was seen at a restaurant. People like Lori Lightfoot, who was attending a big party after the election. Gavin Newsom came out and then apologized for attending a birthday party. And then right after that, right after he apologized, photos leaked of Gavin Newsom attending that birthday party where he says in his apology announcement, we followed the health restrictions and we made sure people were socially distant. And then photos came out and then showed they were all seated together at the same table. None of them were wearing masks. They were all, even though it was technically an outdoor space, it was a covered and walled off patio. So it was pretty much an indoor restaurant that they were in. And nobody was wearing masks. Nobody was following the guidelines. People have gone to jail in California for this stuff. Meanwhile, Gavin Newsom, part of the elite, the rules don't apply to that guy. And so he's able to do whatever he wants and have his little parties with no repercussions. And these, you can see, he had a party with health officials there, and nobody gave a crap about the mandates and the masks and stuff like that. They obviously are not concerned with the virus like they tell us to be concerned about it. But they are, in turn, are not concerned at all. It's totally hypocritical. Then we have, even with the new restrictions, with all these states like Michigan canceling Thanksgiving, and Chicago and California has canceled Thanksgiving and Christmas. Even with that, we have all the way in Sweden, people need mountains, ski resorts, buck alpine lockdowns. And this article talks about how people need the mountains. They need to get outside and feel healthy. And how ridiculous is it to think that you're less likely to catch the virus in a grocery store than you are on the ski lift? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And then we have, bravo to these guys. Bravo to this restaurant in Kennewick. And they are defying Inslee's shutdown orders, calling it a peaceful protest. And this was on the Dory Monson show, but this restaurant says they're having a peaceful protest and they are defying the orders and staying open for indoor service. Well, this was posted on November 20th on Friday. Well, what we saw immediately following this, breaking in the news, was that now the Liquor Control Board in the Kennewick area is threatening to pull the liquor license for this business, threatening them to punish them. And I'm sure that there's going to be fines, like we saw Flower World here in my district got fined like $4,000 for not posting signs and forcing their employees to wear masks outside in the summer. Ridiculous. But you can bet that there's going to be some fines coming to this restaurant, in addition to having the threats for their liquor license to be pulled. That's how Jay Inslee is enforcing this stuff. If you want to own your business, well, you can't have a liquor license anymore if you're going to go against Jay Inslee's tyrannical mandates. We have, whoops, let me go to that one in a second. Well, I don't want to see that. I got another great restaurant here. Let's see. Look, there's Gavin Newsom in his pictures. Let's see here. You can see here's this guy, Dan Price, and he owns a payment processing business here in Seattle. But he posted this tweet the other day, and his tweet says, Amazon profit up 100%, Walmart up 80%, Target up 80%, Lowe's up 74%, Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, and Google stock at record highs. Small businesses 21% closed. Revenue for the rest down 30%. They're going to go extinct in the lockdown without help. Wealth increased in the pandemic for the founder and CEOs of Amazon, Walmart, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Nike, and Apple. Small businesses collectively have lost over $200 billion. We are witnessing the greatest transfer of wealth ever. Ever. This is the greatest transfer of wealth from the middle class to mega corporations that we've ever seen in our lifetimes. Okay? And Jay Inslee, he's all for it. Dan Price says, my company processes payments for 20,000 small businesses. In the first lockdown, their revenues fell 55%. They got 8 weeks of PPP loans for a 36-week pandemic. Those that survived are hanging on by a thread. Jay Inslee doesn't care. He wants to destroy the middle class. He wants to destroy these small businesses. We all know that. And it doesn't matter that Washington State was leading. I already scrolled too far up to go back to it, but they were leading the nation in unemployment claims before this latest lockdown. And you can see here, this was just posted on November 16th. 140 downtown Seattle, that's just downtown Seattle, businesses have permanently closed since the beginning of the pandemic. Okay? 140 have permanently closed. CoStar and Oxford Economics estimates that downtown Seattle lost about 47,000 jobs in the first half of the year. They gained some back in the summer as we reopened, and will end 2020 with a net loss of 20,000 jobs. And they say, according to a Yelp study, there were 2,600 business closures in the Seattle metro area in June. Some of them reopened, and then by July 10th, the total number of closures had fallen to 2,485, so 2,400 businesses. Some of them, a few hundred of those reopened. Okay, 52% were representing permanent closures. However, by the end of August, the total rose again to 3,000 closures, with 59%, almost 60% representing permanent closures. Okay, so about 60% of those 3,000 businesses are permanently closed in the Seattle metropolitan area. And you can see from this Yelp economic impact report from September 2020, if you go down here, business closures continue to increase nationally. Okay, 97, right there, 97,966, so almost 98,000. Just shy of 100,000 businesses have closed nationwide. And these are not mega companies. These aren't your Walmarts, your Safeways, any of those. That's why Amazon's profit is up. That's why Walmart's profit is up. That's why Google and Facebook, their profit is up, is because the big mega companies, the companies where you can click and order things, like Amazon, are totally profiting off of this pandemic. And then they go to say, home, local, professional, and auto services businesses have been staying afloat. So repair type businesses, maintenance type businesses, roofing, auto repair, body shops, people are fixing their cars. They're not necessarily buying new cars. They're fixing up their house. They're fixing their roofs. Those kind of things are good. Women's clothing, pizza, food trucks, home decor, all the stuff that Jay Inslee is locking down again. Those are the businesses that are struggling and closing down permanently. Okay? Restaurants and retail continue to struggle. You can see that. We can see here that where are most businesses closed? Well, obviously Los Angeles and California lead both of these lists by metro and by state, but Seattle's not too far down. Washington is 6th on the list here, but Seattle is down a little bit, just a little bit, but you can see that 3,000 business closure mark. There's the 3,000 mark right there, and it's the red portion is the permanent closures. 60% of those 3,000 businesses that have closed, 60% of those in the Seattle metropolitan area are closed forever. They're not coming back. Those jobs will not return. I'm sure they can go get a job at Walmart, though. This is the kind of stuff that blows me away. And then you see this from the Donald.win, a guy who says he did 60 minutes of research after seeing all the craziness from Jay Inslee. And he says here, while I am blessed to live in a red state, I've heard so many of you complain about this man, Jay Inslee, and I wondered if there was smoke, where there's smoke, there's fire. And oh boy, would you poor Seattleites like to know what I found. And all I did was some fully legal internet sleuthing of publicly sourced information. Let's first illuminate some major contributors to Jay Inslee's failed 2020 presidential campaign. If you remember, Jay Inslee ran for president before Joe Biden was nominated, and he couldn't even get 1%. He could not get 1 measly percent of the Democrat electorate nationwide. That's how unpopular this bozo was. He could not get even 1% of the vote in the polls, and he ended up dropping out. But you can see here, you can take a look at his donations. We see major donations from bad actors like Democracy Engine, Amazon, Alphabet, that's a Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and more. All of the very same people that Dan Price, and I showed you that tweet back there, Dan Price, the very same people Dan Price says are profiting off the lockdown. Is this a conflict of interest? You tell me. And so, let's go to Dan Price's tweet again. Wealth increased in the pandemic for founders and CEOs of Amazon, Walmart, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Nike, Apple. A lot of the very same companies that are profiting off of Jay Inslee's continued lockdowns and assault on the small businesses and the middle class here in America. Okay. He talks about how Democracy Engine is a heavy Democrat group, and he goes on to talk about some other stuff about how they have ties to some of the voter fraud and other things that we're seeing, but that's not really what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about Washington State's economy and the closure of small businesses related to Jay Inslee's tyrannical mandates and restrictions. And this is total insanity, what Jay Inslee is doing here. He is just willfully destroying our economy here in Washington State. You can see this hilarious meme that's been shared around. Totally accurate. I've had this happen to myself. My son and I went into Costco back during March, And this was exactly what was happening, and now it's happening again. We were just at the grocery store today. Shelves totally bare of toilet paper. Unbelievable. I don't get it. But here's a video I wanted to show. This is a restaurant we have that restaurant in Kennewick that's standing against Jay Inslee's order. Here's a restaurant that's in Michigan defying Gretchen Whitmer's order. And you can see this place is just jam-packed with people. When somebody had posted this on, to Fox 11 or something on Twitter, and you can see, look at all those people in there. None of them wearing masks. Hey, at least they're taking Lori Lightfoot, Jay Inslee, and Gretchen Whitmer's lead on this. I mean, if they're not going to if they're not going to be terrorized by their own mandates, if they're not going to follow their own restrictions, then why should we? We shouldn't. More people should be standing up like this, and anybody who's on the east side of Washington should be visiting that restaurant that's staying open in Kennewick. I would highly recommend that you go there this week, or go, if you're not going anywhere for Thanksgiving, maybe they're doing something for Thanksgiving. That'd be something to look into. We had restaurant plans for our Thanksgiving. Typically, we go to a buffet at Salty's, and we've done that every year for the last 8 years, except for 1 year we went to a different buffet somewhere else. But we had to cancel this year. We had to cancel because of Jay Inslee's tyrannical mandates. And so, you know what we're doing? We are going to, where is it? Sorry for the fast scroll here. I had it open just a minute ago. We are going to a potluck 1776 on Bainbridge Island, Turkey Day at Jay's. We are standing against this tyrannical lockdown order. Jay Inslee's canceling Thanksgiving. He's going to cancel Christmas, exactly the same. He's going to keep using this pandemic as an excuse for further restrictions on our liberties and further control over our lives. He wants to have everybody who works at a small business be a ward of the state. If you don't work for the big tech elite corporations, he wants you getting paid from the state. He wants you to be a ward of the state. He wants to be your nanny. So we are going to stand against that. The people of the United Voice of Washington, a Facebook group, we do not consent to Inslee's COVID-19 mandate shutdown. Join us for Thanksgiving dinner potluck to celebrate our freedom and fight against Inslee's tyrannical mandates. We will be having a potluck on Bainbridge Island at a park pretty close to Jay Inslee's house. Whether or not he's there, totally irrelevant. Does not matter. Hopefully he is there. We're going to go there and make our voices heard. We're going to go out there Alex Jones style with a megaphone and march down the street in front of Jay Inslee's house, and they're going to do it on Thursday, on Friday, and on Saturday. They're going to be there all 3 days. I'm going to be there on Thanksgiving Day. We're going to smoke a turkey early in the morning, make some other side dishes, and then we're going to head out, and we're going to try and be at the potluck at noon so we can all enjoy a nice Thanksgiving dinner. There's about 130 people that are showing as going on the Facebook page, and then over 830 people that are interested. And typically the events that I've had during the campaign season, about a third of those interested numbers show up. So we're talking about 200 or 300 people that could be showing up to this potluck event. If you're available, I would suggest coming. It's going to be a great event. We have typically uplifting and great events with a lot of smiling people, and it's a good opportunity to meet up with people and shake some hands and hug some people, hug some friends, and make some new friends. Because one of the things that I'm convinced that this lockdown stuff is really about is about separating people from being able to socialize. It's anti-social distancing. They don't want us connecting at an individual level, and they don't want us talking to each other. They want to mask everybody up. They want to divide us, divide and conquer. That's what it's all about. And if we're going to affect change in the future, people need to continue to fight back against these kinds of orders. And so there's people showing up with a food truck and with tables, and a smoker is going to be on site. And there's going to be a lot of people bringing food. We're going to be bringing food. This is going to be a great event. Turkey Day at Jay's. We will see you there. Jay Inslee, we will not let you lock us down. We will not let you cancel Thanksgiving. We are going to have Thanksgiving, and we're going to have it on your doorstep. So I'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that you don't let Jay Inslee lock down your Thanksgiving. And we need to reopen Washington State. That's what this is all about. We need to reopen our economy. We either need to use it or lose it. Because if we keep closing down like this, we're going to lose the middle class. We're going to lose the small business backbone of our economy, and that's going to be the beginning of the end for Washington State and for America as a whole. So tune in next time and be sure to show up on Thanksgiving for an essential gathering. See you then.